The Centre for Media Monitoring has released a report on having looked at BBC journalism covering what's been going on in Gaza from October 2023 until October 2024.
Oh, brilliant. I haven't seen that.
Yeah,
Thank
looking
you.
at...
I will really
there's a
want to see that.
2-hour Instagram video of it that you can watch.
Wow.
I've downloaded it. You could have Michael take a long
time. You've not seen it yet. What's
No, I haven't watched all of it. All I watched was Peter Oborn's contribution.
Oh, yeah.
So they get the political editor of the BBC is there. He's like put up as, you know, those, you just see it so often, like the guy who has to sit and like take the shit.
Yes.
And just go like,
yeah, poor old BBC does have that quite a lot.
He's like, yeah, you're so right. You're so right.
Yeah.
God. So right. And it's like nothing will change, but this guy, all you get, this is like democracy. I mean, that's what the prime minister is, right? That's Starmer's job. Starmer, he goes to fucking Bradford, and people are like, this place, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And then he leaves Bradford and never comes back. And that's the duty of being the leader. That's the difference between here and North Korea. Is that
that is exactly the difference. And I mean, to be fair, there is a bit of a difference there. Because,
well, I just said what it was. Yes.
Yeah. I think, but I mean, it's like, I think it is a bit meaningful because you do have a lot of people going around being like, oh God, what the fuck have we done? I hope we don't do that again.
Well, you say that on the eve of a new Iraq. You're saying, I hope we don't do that again. I mean, I don't think it really makes any difference.
Yes.
Anyway, getting back to the BBC. So Peter Oborn was on was part of this panel, and he was going through all of the things that the BBC hadn't covered over this whole year, including talking to Avi Shlaim, who's saying is probably the #1 Israeli historian in the UK, never been invited on the BBC to discuss Israeli history, Israeli politics, this whole time, right? Because he's very critical of the mainstream Israeli narrative.
Well, it's simply amazing. We have in Britain the leading historian of Israel. His name is Avi Shlaim. You won't have heard of him because you've never brought him on your channel. Avi Shlaim is the leading historian. He's written more authoritative books about the history of Israel than anybody else. Now, he's never been invited. And before this meeting, I wrote to Avi Shlaim. I didn't tell him why. I said, have you ever been approached by the BBC to come on our channels? He said, no, I've been invited by Al Jazeera, but never by the BBC. Now, as you know, Avi Shlaim is a critic of Israel. You have all sorts of loudmouths who come onto the BBC. I'm not going to name them, we all know who they are. To spout off Israeli stuff. But you've never invited the one person who, more than anybody else in Britain, who's only in Oxford, is the Emeritus Professor of International Relations. He's come at St Anthony's College, but you've never bothered to invite him. Doesn't that tell us something really kind of weird about the way you're conducting your coverage of this terrible conflict?
So he was listing all of the directives that are in the IDF, like the Hannibal Directive and the Deira Directive.
Don't know if I know that one.
It's it's the Israel strategy involving large-scale destruction of civilian infrastructure to cause kind of terror within the population.
Sometimes called terrorism.
No, it's a directive of the military.
Right, yeah.
Only terrorists do terrorism, Matt.
No, you have never mentioned, according to this report, the Hannibal Directive. Now, you cannot understand the events of October the 7th without the Hannibal Directive. A full understanding of that. You've never bothered to tell your viewers and listeners. Now, Haaretz has reported it. Yeliot has reported it in the Israeli papers. ABC News, the United Nations. But the BBC has been... I would love to know why you have never reported, never mentioned it once on air. Question number 1. Question number 2. This report reveals that the BBC has only once, in passing, mentioned the Dahia doctrine. And you cannot understand what is going on in Gaza, has been going on for the last almost 2 years, without knowing that the Dahia doctrine is an official Israeli doctrine which licenses indiscriminate destruction of civilian assets, including people, in order to terrify the other side into resistance. The BBC has never once mentioned, except in passing, why not? It's a grotesque omission, I would have thought, that I would love to get your explanation. We now come on to the fact that to begin with, the BBC scarcely reported the genocidal comments made by the most senior Israeli politicians, including, never apparently, according to this report, the Amalek remarks, those genocidal remarks of Netanyahu. So you never educated your audience about the genocidal remarks, and according to this report, on 100 occasions, you've closed down references to genocide by your guests.
These kind of things that are obviously well known, and you can see them being discussed online all the time, never discussed in the BBC. And so again, it's part of this void where you don't understand. You don't understand when you hear that Israel has shot its own hostages or blown up a hospital.
It's sausages, if you don't mind.
Yeah, or burnt their own sausages, right? You're like, why have they done this? And you're like, they're a good military. Why would you what could you possibly come to the conclusion that they're killing civilians? There must be something in you and your hatred of Jewish people, because why would a military do that? And then it's like, well, look at the fucking doctrine of the actual military, how it's run. That is their. So if the BBC don't report that, then they are in fact sort of pushing this anti-Semitic narrative, right? Because they're not explaining that the IDF as a military force have this way of doing things, right?